Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. I realize that I have been saying that for a little over 2 years now, and some of you might be new to the podcast, to my business, to the Sober Edge, the Sober Nutritionist. And so I thought it would be kind of cool today to pop in and talk about a sober evolution. Because I think for all of us, that's where we move to and through in this alcohol-free space. And so I've had my own sober evolution. My business has evolved, my thoughts and experiences around what it means to live as an alcohol-free woman in America in 2023. Wow. So much has changed. And in many ways, so many good things have happened and are happening in this alcohol-free space. I feel like we are just getting the word out where more people are starting to get the information that we need to make a conscious decision about the role of alcohol in our lives. And so I wanted to just introduce myself if you haven't known me for very long, rather than having to go back to episode 1. I think I'm at episode 115 or 116 with this one. So I'm Terry Patterson, and I stopped drinking at 55 in 2015. And what happened for me right away was, because I didn't stop using a program, or I didn't have a sponsor, I didn't have a book that I read, I didn't have a group, I didn't even know that was a thing. I only knew of AA. And I was frankly afraid to go to AA. So I stopped drinking, and two things happened. One, the key for me was to stop drinking forever, to stop the battle in my head with the back and forth. And the second thing that happened was I was able to put into place and into play very quickly some key things that helped me stay alcohol free. And at the time, I didn't know they were important. I just knew they were working for me. I knew I needed to do something. And so one of the first things that I did was I decided to enroll in nutrition school. Now, if I haven't shared that story, it's kind of a cool story. It sort of was serendipitous the way that it happened. But just know that kind of out of the blue, I found someone in my town who had gone to this school of nutrition, and we connected. I reached out to her, and she encouraged me to go for it. And I talked to my husband, and I decided to go back to school. So I was working full time. So I did this alongside my full time job. And one of the key things for me was, it gave me direction, it gave me energy, it gave me the opportunity for learning and growing and focusing on something new. I think one of the most challenging parts for so many of us is we start by changing our behavior. So we're not drinking, but we don't always change our routines or our the things that feed our soul. So I want to encourage you. I'll just take a little segue and say, please find something to fuel your passion, something to look forward to, something to get excited about, something to start believing in yourself again. That was so key for me. And so I had this amazing experience at the Nutritional Therapy Association. I received my certification and I started working as a functional nutritionist. Again, I was working full time. And so I just kind of dabbled here and there. I had a few clients. I taught a great program that I still teach today to help people with their food. Go kind of on elimination diet and explore letting go of processed foods. And there's a lot of education in the nutrition that I teach, and I love that. And I brought that into the programs that I now teach around alcohol free living because I realized I love coaching and I love teaching. And so it's just such a great blend. And so, I started my coaching business, but it was slow go because I didn't have a lot of business experience, but I started challenging myself and doing all the things, setting up a website, reaching out to people, offering programs, taking one on one clients, doing things like contacting our local school and working with our insurance company to offer programs for the staff. It was pretty cool. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to ditch my full time job and, create this business where I could be a solopreneur. And so it took me a little while, but I got there. And a couple of cool things happened along the way. One cool thing I did was I was offering some kind of fun food tours in my local town. So I live in Northern California in the gold country. So in the gold region, gold rush days. And so I have these two really quaint little old fashioned towns. One I live in, and one is just a few miles away. And so I thought, what if I took people on walking tours through the town and introduced them to some of the local delicacies, and just connected them to some of the cool things in our town that didn't have to do with alcohol. Sometimes, people will go into these small towns on winery tours. And I thought, what if I did a nourishing foods tour and tasting? So I've always sort of thought outside the box, I guess, and had so much fun with my business. And today I still love to support people around their food choices and the way that nutrition can impact our alcohol free journey. So that has not changed. But, when I discovered Annie Grace and her certification program, I was so lucky to be one of the first certified coaches with this Naked Mind Institute and start working and work in the programs that this Naked Mind offered for several years. That's where I met many of you who've become loyal listeners to the podcast. Shout out to so many of my Path members. And, it was just a great place to get to know all of you and to really work closely for a year at a time with all of these different groups. I shouldn't say all, sometimes it was a month, but many of the groups. I think I worked in 8 different path groups that lasted for a year. So some of those were simultaneous. So I literally worked alongside thousands of you as you were changing your relationship with alcohol. And then I realized that one of the things I loved to do was work with people after alcohol. And so I developed this niche where I was working with women one on one to, create a beautiful life after alcohol, to move beyond just the behavior of not drinking and to really thriving in this life. And along the way, I also realized that I kind of wanted to do my own thing. In addition to working with This Naked Mind, I was also working with a company called Simple Seven and a company called Alcohol Free Lifestyle. So I was having great exposure and experience coaching in these big groups. But I also felt such a tug on my heart for women who wanted to design their life and live by design, not by default. So I knew I wanted to create something in that space. And so in 2021, I started this podcast. And in 2022, I created the Self Experience Program. So I've been offering that for a year now. And then this year, this summer, I've been thinking about it for a while. I knew I also wanted to offer something for those of you at the beginning of your journey, those of you who need some foundational support. So I also created the Stop Drinking in Your 50s and Beyond program, and that is a self-paced program that now includes weekly coaching while you go through the program, and it's designed to lay the foundation and help you understand how to get started and create your first 6 weeks of alcohol freedom so that you too can launch into this beautiful place of living alcohol free. And so, just like all of us go through this evolution, I've evolved in the things that I offer and the way that I connect with all of you. And I get excited about you going through your own sober evolution. One of the other really cool things that happened for me was I had an opportunity to work with this Naked Mind Institute newly certified coaches, or while they were going through certification. I got to come alongside as a guide and hang out with these brand new coaches and then create some of my own coaching programs to support alcohol free coaches. And in fact, this summer, myself and my retreat partner, Karolina Jaspowolska, we actually offered an alcohol free retreat for alcohol free leaders and coaches. So that was super cool. And one of the ways that my business has evolved. And I mean, there's a lot to being a solopreneur. And one of the things I realized is that I actually love working alongside other coaches. Maybe not in every aspect of my business, but having a partner and somebody to get bounce new ideas off of and get excited with has been super cool. And so let's see, in June of this year, 2023, my partner Sarah and I founded the Sober Edge Book Club. So that's one of the other things that I'm doing. So I have a couple of programs for women to stop drinking and to create a beautiful life once you're alcohol free. Then I have the Sober Edge Book Club and this podcast. I also work with clients one-on-one, whether you're a coach, whether you're looking for alcohol freedom, or you're a woman who has stopped drinking, but you're wanting to explore how to keep growing and keep going. And those are all places where I have had so much experience by working alongside so many of you, and then also I have such a passion for, and because I always have new ideas. And I get so excited about the opportunities to connect with all of you in different ways. I'm cooking up something new for early 2024. So stay tuned. This is going to be with a very special collaborative partner. And it's going to be something new in the alcohol free space, designed more for those of you who are coaches and sober entrepreneurs and exploring how to connect with other thought leaders in this space. It's going to be pretty exciting. So stay tuned for that. But I just wanted to, I realize it's been a couple of years since I've really introduced myself. And so I wanted to let you know where to find me and what I've been up to. So, in addition to the Sober Edge here, my home base is the Sober Nutritionist website. And then Terry at the Sober Nutritionist is my Instagram handle where you'll find me most days. No, I shouldn't say that. Most weeks. And so you can always join my newsletter too. So every week, in addition to this podcast, I also publish a newsletter. give you a little behind the scenes of the podcast, and then always share a couple of extra things, maybe something that another solopreneur is offering where you can get a juicy discount, or it might be something that I've recently discovered, or some thoughts that I want to share, maybe some books that I'm reading, maybe a discount, like we had free December for the Sober Edge Book Club that was published in my newsletter. So please connect with me over there if you want to keep knowing what's cooking and what's evolving in my world. And so I hope that you'll reach out and share with me how your sober evolution is going. And I truly believe that when we stop drinking, we create so much opportunity for what now, what next. And again, this is like one of my favorite things. I get so excited about the possibilities for each and every one of you because it really lights me up, because I've seen so much in my own life about what it means to start exploring this place where we arrive. All of the things that we didn't learn in school, how to make decisions, boundaries, relationships, friendships, play, the things that we haven't had the time or the bandwidth to develop as we were drinking. If you're like me, I drank from 20 something until 55. And so there's a school of thought that really says, we kind of stop growing at the age we start drinking. And so if that's you, and maybe you're a few decades or a few years behind where you want to be, I think that I'm just going to call you out as this is the most beautiful opportunity. And the other thing that's really shifted for me lately is I just have this passion for helping women in their 50s and beyond to embrace all of the things that it means to be this age. I think I grew up with a grandmother. I loved her dearly. She lived with us off and on my whole life. And she was her later life, I should say. She was the quintessential 60-year-old at that time. And she wore the little old lady's shoes. She had a wig. I mean, her life is completely different than my life in my 60s. And so I want to help you evolve right along with me. And let's turn aging on its head. Let's start embracing who we always wanted to be. I've been recently just kind of going down, so many paths and learning from so many thought leaders about aging. And I've, started following people in social media and subscribing to newsletters and reading books. And Chip Connolly is one of my new favorite mentors, and he comes out of Modern Elder Academy, but he talks about it being a midlife chrysalis, not a midlife crisis. And so I love the idea of flipping it on our heads. And one of the other things that was recently featured in one of his newsletters was this idea that when we're in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, we're really acquiring things. And then in our 50s and beyond, we're starting to recognize, like, oh, it's not about striving or gaining all of these things. It's about being and even letting go of some things. And so I came upon this post by the holistic psychologist, Dr. Nicole LaPera, on Instagram last week. And I wanted to share it with you because I think it speaks to this place that we arrive at in our 50s and beyond. And particularly if you are 50 and beyond and you're looking at your relationship with alcohol, I want to help you understand that it's your time to make a change, because what can open up on the other side can only open up when we remove something like alcohol. And I want so much for all of you to discover this transformation that is possible. and to live this beautiful, intentional, more authentic life, to live it in community, to live it for yourself, your family. It's incredible. So here's what Dr. Nicola Paris shared. I wish less people glorified accomplishing things before 30. It's overrated. Here's why. We need to encourage more exploring, more starting over at 40, more finding your true passion at 50, more moving across the country at 60. In our 20s and 30s, we're accomplishing goals that society values. We're doing things for approval. Then we wake up unhappy and think, it's too late. We get complacent because we think life has a time limit. It doesn't. Celebrate lifelong evolution. Celebrate learning who you actually are. Celebrate following your heart, your true calling, and that little voice in your head that says, do it. Age dysfunction is very real. Don't fall for it. And I love this so much because I think it speaks exactly to this place that I'm talking about, where in order for us to evolve and to be in this place of recognizing that we get to own life now in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, there is so much ahead. And so when we remove alcohol, when we get it out of the way, it's not too late. In fact, it's just the beginning. So if you're looking for a place to be, I hope you will join me at my website, The Sober Nutritionist. Come be a part of my community because things are evolving over here, and I can't wait to connect with each of you. Have a beautiful week. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.